Spoken thought. Hope this little transition means a lot. It's just my voice now. Just my voice now.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Behind the Workflow, the podcast where we celebrate the invisible work that keeps businesses running. And occasionally one. Hello, dashboard detectives, spreadsheet survivors, Power BI fans, and everyone who's ever opened a report and immediately said, well, that's not right. Welcome back to Behind the Workflow, the podcast where we laugh at the wonderfully weird world of operations. Celebrate the invisible work that keeps organizations running, and occasionally remind spreadsheets that they're not allowed to have feelings, although some of them clearly do. I'm Melissa, business operations professional, workflow detective, and today's episode is a little different. Today, we're holding an intervention, not for the employees, not for the managers, but for the data tables. Because after years of working in business operations, I've come to one conclusion. Some dashboards don't have reporting problems, they have relationship problems. So, let's begin today's couples therapy session. Confession time. Have you ever refreshed a dashboard and suddenly your sales doubled? You got excited. This is incredible. We're going to have our best quarter ever. Then you refresh again, and now half your customers disappear. Congratulations, your company is apparently going out of business. You check your formulas, they're fine. You check your filters, they're fine. You start blaming Power BI. Power BI is sitting in the corner. Like, I literally just showed you what you gave me, says Power BI. Poor Power BI. It gets blamed for everything, just like IT does. Most of the time, the dashboard isn't broken. The tables are just refusing to communicate. Welcome to couples therapy. The marriage counselor comes out of the office, meets the clients that are there and says, "Good morning. Please have a seat." So what brings everyone in today? Customer table immediately starts talking. Oh, where do I begin? I've been trying to connect with sales for years, but every time they introduce me, they use a different name. Sales just crosses its arms and says, "That's not true." I call them XYZ. Marketing jumps in and says, "I call them X dot, Y dot, Z dot." Project shrugs and says, "I just call them client 42. Finance quietly says, "I'm still using the customer list from 2020. The counselor slowly removes their glasses. I think we've found our first issue. I actually saw things like this all the time in operations. Different departments weren't collecting bad data. They were collecting the same data, different ways. Sales had one naming convention, marketing had another, projects had another, and finance had another. Everyone thought they were right. Power BI thought they were 4 different customers. Let's head back to therapy session. The marriage counselor says, "So, have any of you tried using the same customer ID?" Silence. Customer table blinks. What's a customer ID? Sales scratches his head and looks confused. Marketing starts checking their phone. Project quietly leaves the room, hoping to not be noticed. And finance says, "We have IDs. I just don't know where they're stored." This is exactly why data modeling matters. It's simply giving your data one common language, one customer ID, one employee ID, one project number, one source of truth. Think of it like name tags at a networking event. Without them, everyone spends the whole afternoon asking, "So, what department are you in again?" Now, let's talk about something called a star schema. Don't panic, there's no algebra. Nobody has to solve for X. Power BI isn't going to hand out homework. Imagine Thanksgiving dinner. The turkey sits in the middle, everything else goes around it: mashed potatoes, stuffing, green beans, pie. Everything connects back to the turkey. Now imagine Aunt Linda decides dessert belongs in the garage. Uncle Bob puts mashed potatoes on the coffee table. And someone hides the gravy in the bathroom. Congratulations. You no longer have Thanksgiving. You have chaos. That's what happens when your tables don't know where they belong. Let's head back to our therapy session. The marriage counselor says, "So, tell me about your relationship." Sales sighs. "We're connected, kind of," the counselor says. "What does that mean?" Sales says, "Sometimes I use customer names. Sometimes I use customer numbers. Sometimes I just copy and paste whatever was in the email." The counselor writes something down. "I'm hearing a lack of commitment." Invoices speaks up. "I'd love to help, but nobody relates to me." Project nods. "Same here." Marketing says, "I thought abbreviations would make everyone's life easier." Everyone else says, "No." One of my favorite parts of working in operations was untangling problems like this. People would say the dashboard doesn't make sense. But after digging into the data, the charts were fine. The relationships weren't. Sometimes fixing one relationship solved 5 different reports. That's why I always started with one question: how is the data connected? Not, what chart should I build? Let's head back to our therapy session. We have one more guest to introduce you to. The office door opens, and guess who walks in? Power BI. Coffee in one hand, relationship diagram in the other. Power BI looks around the room, takes one deep breath, and says, "So, who created the many to many relationship?" Everyone points at someone else. Power BI sighs. "I knew it." Final thoughts. After years in business operations, one lesson stayed with me. Great dashboards aren't built because someone knows Power BI. They're built because someone took the time to organize the data first. Cleaning names, creating standards, connecting tables, building one source of truth. Nobody applauds that work. Nobody throws confetti in the air because customer IDs finally match. But everyone notices when meetings stop arguing over whose report is right. That's the kind of work I love. Quiet, behind the scenes, and incredibly important, by the way. So before we wrap up, I want to hear from you. If your data tables went to couples counseling, what would they argue about first? Duplicate IDs, broken relationships, too many to many situations, or would one table simply refuse to communicate? Thanks for joining another episode of Behind the Workflow. Until next time, remember, your dashboard isn't broken. Your tables are just working through some things. See you later.
Broken thought. Hope this little transition means a lot. It's just my voice now. Just my voice now.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Behind the Workflow, the podcast where we celebrate the invisible work that keeps businesses running and occasionally one